Good evening. I'm Lindsay Bridges, and I'm from Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, and I'm glad that you are here. Whether you're meditating and practicing with us live in this session this evening or listening to a recording of this later, we're glad that you're practicing with us. We're going to start this evening with a meditation, and I'm finding that it's really helpful to begin with just a bit of standing practice. So, if that is helpful for you, allow yourself to come to a standing position. So, to begin, finding your mountain pose. A little swaying from one side to the other, back and forward, until you find that spot. The body is in alignment with gravity below. Tonight we're going to do the 6 postures of the spine that I've done before. And as I've said before, I learned these from Nancy Nicholson. I love this series and do it often. Bring our hands in front of our heart. Take a nice breath in. Release it out. Next, in breath, reaching high. Out breath, release. In breath, reach. Out breath, release. As you explore this, see what it's like to let your full awareness come to the movement. Exploring what kind of movement nurtures and nourishes your body. One more. And release. Take a moment to pause back in a mountain pose. And letting the hands come in front of the heart for the second part of this sequence. You take a breath in, release it out. In breath, reach high. Out breath, one side or the other. In breath, high. Out breath, stretch. Again, what's it like to bring the whole awareness into the body, feeling the release of the out breath, invigoration of an in breath. One more, both sides. And release. And pausing here for just a moment. Allowing the body to feel these movements, the energy imprint on the body. The next part of the series, we again start with the hands in front of the heart. On in breath, we open wide. Out breath, fold. Make it as big or as small as feels comfortable for you. Feeling the release, deepening into a fold, opening and folding. One more. And release. Last one of this sequence, the feet are a little more than hips width apart. Hands start down by one hip. In breath, reach high. Out breath, release. One more. And release. And the other side. Last one. And release. And for this last, just kind of shaking it out. Whatever needs to let go of. All the way back to standing mountain pose. Feeling into the body, mind, and heart here. We're going to finish our standing practice with some gentle unwinding. Another practice I really appreciate, do often. The arms are totally loose and floppy, ragdoll, empty coat sleeves, and the movement really comes from the hips. So just finding whatever kind of very gentle swinging feels good for you. Really feeling into the rhythm. Something very naturally soothing to our nervous systems. About coming into a rhythmic movement. Opening up to that rhythm. Begin to slow it down. Back into standing. Notice the movement of energy in the body here, the breath, the feet rooting down into the earth. It's energetic, allowing this energetic uplift right through the spine, off the back of the top of the head. And then moving back into a sitting posture, if that's helpful for you. So to begin the sitting part of our practice, allowing yourself to adjust the body. Take your time with this. Really let yourself kind of scooch around if you need to. Settling into the chair. Feeling into the possibility of anchoring right with gravity, moving down from the top of the head, to the spine, the hips, the legs, right down through the bottoms of the feet. This connection with the whole of the earth. And the counterbalance. There is something about releasing into the strength of rooting with gravity. that offers a different kind of energy to rise up right through the spine, the neck, the top of the head. Another way to help ground in the practice, if you wish, is opening the eyes. Really letting your eyes scan all the way around you, the ceiling, the floor, wherever you are. You can look all the way behind you. Use the felt sensation of vision to know you are here, to feel yourself here. Open up through the lens of listening. Let the soundscape root yourself here. And open up the internal landscape of the body, the physicality of the body, all the points of contact with air, chair, floor, whatever. Clothing, notice warmth or coolness. Whatever physical sensations are in the body, some means of acknowledging this moment now, just as it is. Offering it all a breath, breathing in, breathing out. What is it like to drop right into the rhythm of the breath, the inflow, the outflow, the physicality of this rhythm? Notice there's nothing you have to do. The body knows how to breathe. The breath breathes itself in, releases out. Of course, when we practice, our minds often take time to settle. Sometimes they're really busy, lots of chaos, distracted energy. Sometimes it's just busy mind. Sometimes it's painful, worry, fears, whatever else. Notice that there is this possibility of allowing any moment that arises, just as it is, no matter what it looks like, for it to be useful for your practice. We carry so many internal judgments. It is so easy to let our mindfulness practice be one more way we beat up on ourselves. What is it like to flip the narrative? Instead of what my practice moment is supposed to look like, I'm willing to deeply open up to what's here in this moment, bringing a deep heart mind witnessing the moment just as it is. Sometimes when we do this, it's very useful to set an intention with some sort of anchor. taking a moment and seeing if there is an anchor practice that be useful for you right now. The breath or listening, the body, sounds, whatever. Maybe it's a loving kindness practice. Choosing some anchor. Then there are these moments where we're with the anchor. It's the breath. Really sensing that rhythm of breath moving in, moving out. And then in those other moments when we're not with the anchor, the mind has gotten caught up here or there, wherever that is for you. What is it like to take that moment of waking back up to the distraction, fully waking up to welcome and understand this moment, relationship to this moment in a way that is mindful, that is heartful, that is useful, skillful? Typically, the first step of that would be some sort of acknowledgement, a willingness to recognize wherever it is that our minds go. Sometimes wherever they went, it's just a very fleeting thing, and we wake up, we notice, and we come right back to the anchor. And isn't that sweet? And other times there's a real charge or pull on the mind. It's not so easy to let go of. And to try to jump right back to the breath might not be mindful, might not be in alignment with tending without judgment, lots of care and wisdom to this moment. So if you notice something particularly pulling on the awareness, it's making it challenging to stay with the anchor. What's it like to still let the anchor be there? As much as possible, feeling that rhythm, breath in and out. Then allow room for a relationship that has some skill and some wisdom, some kindness, some compassion with whatever's arising. Recognize, witness whatever's here. Maybe there's some sort of name you can give it. You know you've found a right name if something kind of releases in recognition of, yes, this. What's it like to drop below any storyline of what's going on? Feel into the body sensation of what's here, the imprint on the body being caught up in this way, in this distraction. Take as long as you need to find your footing with a right relationship with whatever's unfolding in this moment. It has some attunement to a mindful, heartful awareness, willingness to witness, willingness to bring strength of heart, befriending practice, compassion, kindness, or might even equanimity be possible here. Breathing in, breathing out, whatever's arising in this moment now. Exploring what it's like to actually bring a mindful, heartful relationship yourself to this moment, no matter what's coming up. If you want, you can even add in the agreements we've been exploring in these community drop-in groups. We've been looking at the 4 agreements. The first one is be impeccable with your word, which means be impeccable with how you care for yourself. Be willing to make an agreement never to go against yourself. Recognize where you need some support or some learning or have a growth edge. Doesn't mean don't ignore our flaws and don't change and grow. It means don't beat ourselves up for it. Coming into that self-acceptance that actually allows true growth and healing. How might this first agreement be relevant to this moment for you? For me, think of it through those 3 foundational qualities of goodwill, empathy, and letting go. Being impeccable with my word means orienting again and again towards these qualities, opening in a way of goodwill, empathy, and letting go. So I'm offering a lot of possibilities here. I just invite you to explore what of this may be useful for you. Experiment, find out. And the second agreement, where we are now, don't take anything personally. How might that agreement be relevant right in the midst of our meditation practice? I'm trying to analyze it. If you just offer this agreement, what usefulness might it have for you here and now? this moment right now. It's the most relevant relationship for you with your own moment arising. In the last few closing moments of our meditation, fully meet the body, mind, and heart just as it is, offering this breath of mind, heart, care, goodwill, of empathy, of letting go, whatever way that's most relevant for you. So, welcome everyone. Nice to see that Steve and Sharon are with us. I'm smiling back. I don't know how many of y'all noticed or recognized this t-shirt. This is actually calligraphy from Thich Nhat Hanh. One of the retreats I went on with him, they were selling t-shirts with his calligraphy and smile. So I've always enjoyed this t-shirt ever since. If we were meeting in person, this would be our time when we could go around the circle, greet everyone that was here, and share gratitude, share a greeting. So if you want to write anything in the chat box, would love to hear from you. It's totally up to you, but just know sending good greetings to everyone around. And Lakshmi, good evening. Glad that you're here. I think I'll share a gratitude. Actually, the gratitude I'm having is for the smile. I can see it in my own screen. It's in reverse, but it's still smile. And so it's kind of sweet to feel a little touch of that presence of someone who has deeply lived a path of intentional, mindful awakening and presence in the world in a way that matters. And that's Thich Nhat Hanh. So, Lakshmi, grateful to be reminded of not taking anything personally. Yes. And Drew, glad that you're here. Excited to explore more about the Four Agreements. I'm really appreciating this book and glad that some of you are finding this useful. So tonight we are continuing with the Four Agreements, this book by Don Miguel Ruiz. If this is your first time hearing, each is really a standalone and you don't have to have heard them all. This is a book I found out about through the Prison Mindful Institute, and after they referred to it enough times in that context of being a powerful means of making change, I had to finally read it myself. So I'm really appreciating it. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The second is don't take anything personally. The third is don't make assumptions. And the fourth, always do your best. So we looked at the second agreement, not so much through the lens of Reese last week, but more from the lens that we are an interwoven, um, shared being on this earth. And there is, at a scientific level, truly nothing personal. So it's really helpful to get clear that there is not a me that is functioning independent of everything else out here. The me in here is always part of all that is here. So I just have to say, I saw Patrick sign on here too, grateful for pause. Yes, so I'm going to take a pause with that. Isn't it nice to slow down? So tonight, with the second agreement, don't take anything personally, I really want to look at how Ruiz speaks of this because he does it very powerfully. But before I get to that, I just want to name one thing that came up in one of the Zoom groups last week. I mentioned how much I appreciated Ruiz putting this whole book into the framework of agreements. And someone in the group wanted to know more, wanted to know why I thought that word was so powerful in this context. So I said I would give it some thought, and I did. And so I'm going to share that because I really find that idea of allowing myself to make an agreement with myself to practice these principles is very useful. So for me, the word agreement somehow feels like it has more purposefully, has a quality of greater purposeful binding than just setting my intention. When you make an agreement, you're saying that you have a willingness to follow it. But it's not just that. There's also a tone in the word agreement that's very helpful to pull out. So when I'm curious about a word, I always look back to the roots. And this one has very interesting roots. And the roots are very evident when you just think of the most common way that this word can be understood. For example, two people in conflict. When you hear that they have come to an agreement about how to move forward, it naturally implies finding some sort of mutually acceptable way of putting down the conflict, putting down the fight. It implies goodwill from which a moving forward is possible. And that is right in the root of the word. The root of the word to agree means to please, satisfy, receive favor, take pleasure in. Consider the word agreeable, refers to a sense of pleasant. Also included in the root of the word is the sense of goodwill and welcome. So if there is a conflict, a sense of conflict, which we're often feeling, right, conflict, me within me, towards me, or with others, coming to an agreement can be seen as finding a path of opening with goodwill and ease, and then sticking to it. If I can carry all of these connotations into the idea of making an agreement with myself, I am, in essence, enacting a way of working with conflict that feels good. I do this as an act of goodwill. And agreements only work if they follow. The agreement I'm making with myself is not ever about perfection. It is an agreement about reorienting with this kind of goodwill again and again and again, wherever, however often I fall off. So these are basically agreements of ways to take care of ourselves, to allow ourselves to find that helpful path instead of falling into the old habits and hurts again and again. Bringing this idea now forward into Ruiz's second agreement. Don't take anything personally. Here, Ruiz really puts this into the context of hurts, blaming, shaming, judgments in a way that's not useful. And he makes a very powerful case around this. He looks at the agreement in two basic ways. The first is making an agreement with ourselves not to take anything personally about what others may say or think about us. And the second is about what we may say or think about our own selves. In terms of what others say about us, I love the way he languages it. So I'm just going to read his words. Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. If I see you on the street and I say, "Hey, you are so stupid," without knowing you, it's not about you. It's about me. You take it personally because you agree with whatever was said. As soon as you agree, the poison goes through you and you are trapped in the realm of hell. It's pretty clear. We only take personally from others what we are willing to take true about ourselves, or what we are scared might be true about ourselves. Otherwise, there would be no reason to ever get mad, be offended, upset about what anyone said, because we wouldn't accept it. It would have no place to land. So when other people's words are landing as hurtful for us, what they're pointing to are ways that we're willing to hurt ourselves. Back to that first agreement, be impeccable with your word. Never go against yourself. So what Ruiz is saying is that we need to see their words as reflections of the other person, not us. He goes on and he says, what they say, what they do, and the opinions they give are according to the agreements they have made in their own minds. That person tries to send poison to you. And if you take it personally, then you take that poison and it becomes yours. They can hook you easily with one little opinion and feed you whatever poison they want. And because you take it personally, you eat it all up. You eat all their emotional garbage, and now it becomes your garbage. But if you don't take it personally, you are immune in the middle of hell. Immunity to poison in the middle of hell is the gift of this agreement. So he goes on later in the chapter and says, the whole world can gossip about you, and if you don't take it personally, you are immune. Someone can intentionally send emotional poison, and if you don't take it personally, you will not eat it. So to learn to stand strong in this agreement with ourselves, it is a freeing way to be in a world that is full of people chronically lashing out at each other. The second way he looks at it is about what we say around our own selves. And in specific, all of the ways that our minds create self-judgment, self-blaming, self-shaming habits. We're creating our own poison and taking it internally, both. So the way he looks at it is to say that we have many divided minds, many divided voices in our own minds. And he compares it to a huge marketplace with thousands of people talking and bartering at the same time, each with a different thought, feeling, and point of view. Have you ever had that feeling of living in the midst of cacophony and it's just all inside the head? So we have to have some practice of being able to use a wise discernment for navigating all of these variety of voices in the mind. Even though he doesn't say this specifically in this chapter, the first agreement is a great place to start with this. Be impeccable with your word, meaning agree to take great care with how you speak to yourself. If we're willing to do that, then we don't take personally whatever crazy messages our own minds might create, and we don't let ourselves poison ourselves with those messages. The last thing I want to say before we close around this is to name one thing that he actually doesn't say so clearly in this chapter. And I think it's really important to hold this in the light as we're looking at this idea of don't take anything personally. If someone gives me the message that I've said something that's hurtful to them, Ruiz points out it's hurtful to them not because of what I actually said, but rather because that person has a wound on which my words landed. If they didn't have a wound, my words couldn't cause them any pain. Getting clear on this part of it really is helpful, and it keeps us from taking responsibility for what might not actually be ours. But it's definitely leaving something out when there's the next step is not added on to that. The next step to me is, and I can learn to use words that are less likely to fall on our common wounds. If I go back to that first agreement, be impeccable with your words. The words I say matter. And I want to learn words that are less likely to cause harm, less likely to land in someone's wounds, more likely to open doors for mutual healing. So this second agreement always needs the strong backing of that first. It is my willingness to be open to learning and growing, always in response to how my words land for others, that allows me to be in right, good, meaningful relationship. So it's not useful to go into reactive self-blame for poor use of words. We all do it. Sometimes we don't understand what we're even saying or how they may land. It is highly useful, however, and not taking feedback personally. I open myself to doing this. It's highly useful to get the feedback and then make the effort to do whatever wise learning is needed from that feedback. So we're going to pause there, and I invite you to consider this second agreement. Don't take anything personally for yourself. And we'll just take a minute to sit and pause. Thank you. And I do have a couple of announcements before we close. Um, I have 2 intro to mindfulness classes coming up online. They'll start mid-June. One of them is specifically for people doing caregiving work for our community, such as Loaves and Fishes, Crisis Ministry. I've written out to several of these places. If you know a nonprofit that its staff might find the course useful, this course is specifically for them, and I'd love to hear. The second is open to anyone else that might be interested. That one's going to be on Wednesday evenings, starting June 17th, and will run 6 to 7:15 on Wednesday evenings. It's on the website that you can sign up if you have interest or you want to share that with anyone. We also are still working on our team mindfulness group, drop-in group. We've had some kinks in figuring out the behind the scenes logistics of it, but that is very close to happening. So if you know any teams that would be interested, please have them reach out to us. And we'd love to have them join. The last announcement is just a reminder that I do have the podcast and the blog working now. There's a little delay and a lag to get things on it, but if for some reason just listening or even just reading is better for you, I am getting all of the weekly live streams from me at least posted. And hopefully we'll be getting them from Aaron and Jude posted as well at some point. These offerings are freely given. If you find them helpful, we are glad that you are here and feel like you are sharing in our mission of spreading mindfulness as a healing resource in time of deep need for it. If you would like to financially help support us in our mission and in the work that we're trying to do, we appreciate any amount, and you can go to our website and donate there. So, and last, the Zoom room. If you want to join in the Zoom room for some community and a little more practice sharing and checking in, I'm putting the Zoom link in the chat right now. And as soon as I close this live stream, I will also put it in the description box for this. You probably have to refresh your page if you need to get it that way. And please do come join us. If you haven't done it before, we're small and we're friendly, and it's kind of a sweet time to share. So let's sit for just a minute or two to close. Pausing right now. Noticing whatever's present in your own body, mind, and heart in this moment. May I have compassion and understanding for myself just as I am. Compassion and understanding for all others just as they are. May this compassion and understanding open the way for deeper, wise action, more skillful means of meeting this world in a way that I care about, in a way that matters. Lovely to be with you. And if you would like to join in the Zoom room, I look forward to seeing you in just a minute.